Death Parade. Death Parade. Like, real talk though, son. Like, I was gonna watch it anyway because I like the way the animation looked. You know what I'm saying? Like when I saw some of those PVs and some of those trailers and just some of the pictures in general, I was just like, yeah, this look cool. You know, I like the way it's drawn. I like the main character, the white haired dude. Well, find out his name is Dequim. I like the way, you know what I'm saying, the character was drawn or whatever. I was like, yeah, this looks kind of cool. You know, then I read about it. You know, about how it's based on Death Billiards, which was a movie, I think. You know what I'm saying? I haven't seen Death Billiards, so I don't know. You know, and I was just like, okay, you know what I'm saying? This has some promise to it. You know, this seems kind of cool. I'm gonna watch it, and then I watched it, and I was just like, ooh, oh Lord, this is everything I hoped it would be. This seems like it's gonna be an anthology series, like on some Twilight Zone / Night Gallery / American Horror Story type of shit. And that's cool for me because I love the Twilight Zone. Like, I'm a huge fan of the Twilight Zone, so it's going to be cool to see an anime anthology series. It's going to be awesome to see, you know. But, yeah, man, this first episode really got me, like, oh. Like, I was just, like, literally watching this episode, and with every passing minute, every passing second or whatever just kind of went by, I was just like, what? It really had me, man. Like, this episode, first of all, is beautifully animated. I'm talking about beautiful. And luckily, Funimation is streaming this because they license it in this country. So we got, like, some real good, you know, subtitles. I'm talking about real good, which is awesome. You know what I'm saying? Because when I watched Absolute Duo the first time, it wasn't a Funimation stream. It was just some bullshit that had got released or whatever. So the translation was ugh. But when I watched this, I was just like, thank God. The translations, not translation, but the subtitles are the shits because Funimation actually did them. You know what I'm saying? So I was happy about that. You know what I'm saying? I thought that was great. It's beautifully animated. I think that the intro that intro is the shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, both the intro and the outro with Gangsta's Head, I'm not even gonna lie. Honestly, even if the show had just been like, whatever for me, episode 1 anyway had been like whatever, I would continue to watch it just because of the intro. Like, that intro, that shit had me going, man. That dude, I don't know who that guy is singing that intro, but that motherfucker was putting in work. That shit was funny to me. Like, dude was really putting in work. That made me laugh, though, man, because that dude was, he was getting it, man. But let's just get into this episode, though, man. So, basically, what happens was there's just a couple. This newly married couple. We have Takashi or Takashi, depending on how you pronounce it. I said Takashi. We have Takashi, and then we have, her name was Machiko. Newly married couple or whatever. They wake up in this, I'm going to say hotel sort of place. It looked like a fancy sort of hotel. They wake up on these elevators or whatever, and they just kind of go out into this bar where they see a bartender. They have no memories of what's going on. And the bartender introduces himself, says his name is Dequim, you know what I'm saying, and this, you know, he starts talking about, I know you have some questions or whatever, you know what I'm saying, but let me ask you a question first. Do you remember what's going on? Do you have any memory, any knowledge of what's going on right now? And it was like, no, for the most part, I just remember we were like, you know, coming from our honeymoon or going to our honeymoon or some shit like that, and he was just like, okay. Well, let me explain the rules to you. And then he just starts going on about these rules, about how they got to play these games or whatever, man. Like, you know, the game will be chosen from a series of, like, roulette. You know what I'm saying? They have to push a button. It's like a roulette selection. So I was just kind of like, okay, you know. And at first, you know what I'm saying, Takashi is just like, yeah, let's get the fuck out of here, man. This dude is obviously crazy. He's obviously crazy. So let's just get out of here. You know what I'm saying? And they proceed to just kind of walk through this place, whatever, this hotel, and there's no exit. You know what I'm saying? There is, like, no exit whatsoever to this place, and they demand to know where the exit is, and, you know, Dequim tells them, hey, like I said, you can't leave here until the game is finished, so go ahead and you might as well just go ahead and play the game or whatever. And at first they say they refuse, but then he opens up the bar behind him, and you see that it's just bodies just hanging. You know what I'm saying? Which I was actually shocked by, though. I was actually shocked that Madhouse censored that part, because for the most part they just showed like the silhouettes of the bodies. You know that they're bodies, you know what I'm saying, but they censored it. You know what I'm saying? So not censored it, but they didn't show it. They left it up to the imagination. I was shocked by that, but it worked. You know what I'm saying? It worked to instill the fear into the main characters in this particular episode. You know what I'm saying? So that worked, because just to flat out see the bodies, you know what I'm saying, as the audience would be like, ooh, but to leave it up to the imagination as to what they saw, you just like, yeah, that's a lot worse. You know what I'm saying? So that was cool. So they end up playing the game or whatever, and they do the roulette, and their game of choice is darts. They have to play darts. You know what I'm saying? And he explains to them, you know what I'm saying, the situation that's going on with the darts or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And they proceed to play the dart games, and he tells them that certain parts on the dartboard, it's all linked up to their bodies or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So the pain that they would feel, you know, by hitting that part on the dartboard is going to be real to them. And then at first, they don't believe that shit. You know what I'm saying? Because the dude is a doctor. You know what I'm saying? The Takashi is a doctor. He don't believe that shit. But he throws a dart, which I found to be crazy too, though, man. Like, he's kind of a shitty male character, because if that was my wife, I would have been like, okay, honey, you go first. Just in case this shit is real, you go first. Because I don't want you to be hurt, but he goes first. So, like, right then and there, I was just like, wow, this dude, he seems like he's a piece of shit a little bit, you know? But he throws the dart, and it hits, like, her shoulder or whatever. And she feels the pain, like it's real. She really does feel some sort of pain. I was like, ooh. You know, when he looks to see if it actually pierced her, she's like, no, it didn't pierce me, but it really did hurt. You know, the pain went away already, but it really did hurt. And she throws one towards him, and it hit some, you know what I'm saying, like somewhere around here. He's like, oh, what the hell, you know? And that's when, you know, he kind of rushes, you know, Dequim. He's like, hey, what the hell going on, man, you know? And Dequim explains to him, like I said, you know, this is a game in which you put your life on the line. I've already explained this shit to you. And he's just like, well, you know, if you don't want to play the game of darts, you don't have to. You can just keep hitting the dart part around the board, you know what I'm saying, and that's going to be it. But she's going to win because she hit a part that was higher score than what he hit. You know what I'm saying? So she was like, you know, she's going to win. I mean, so Dequim was like, she's going to win, you know. And right then and there, that sort of laid some of the seeds of deceit, you know what I'm saying, for Takashi. And I was just kind of like, ugh, I don't like where this is going already, you know. But he goes over and he tells her, we're just going to hit the dark circles around it, you know what I'm saying, and we can just get it over with real quick like that. You know, and at first they're doing it, but then he has kind of like a flash scare, because it's kind of like a flashback to something that just happened, but it was just him visualizing himself being one of those bodies hanging upside down, and he just fucking just, you know what I'm saying, he just hits one of the body parts, you know, and I was just like, wow, this dude, you know, and, you know what I'm saying, she collapses or whatever, he's just like, oh, honey, I'm sorry, it was an accident, I didn't mean to do it, you know what I'm saying, I apologize, you know, and then she does the same thing, she throws one and hits the eye, it hits his fucking eye. You know, but I think hers was genuinely an accident, it seemed like, because when he threw his, it hit her mouth, and when she was about to throw hers, the cut reopened up in her mouth, and she just kind of bit down and it threw her balance off, whatever, you know. Or she could have bit her own lip, I don't know, but it threw her balance off and she hit him in the eye, and because that happened, he was like, oh, hell no, you did this shit on purpose, I'm about to go ahead and just, you know, and he was about to throw one, and she was like, you know about the stomach, don't hit me in my stomach. Because if she's pregnant, you know what I'm saying, turns out that she's pregnant or whatever, so I was just like, wow, you know. And at first I was like, is it true? Because, again, those seeds of deceit have been laid out just right then and there, so I was like, is this even true? Is she really pregnant? It had me doubtful already. I was like, is she really pregnant, you know? It's funny because, like, typical male, I was just kind of like, really? Are you pregnant? Instead of just like, oh, wow, she's pregnant. I was thinking, really? Really? Are you pregnant? It's convenient as fuck for you to tell him that shit right now. That, like, typical male, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, but I was just like, wow, you know, she's pregnant. And then he starts to regain some memory. He's like, oh, yeah, you have been acting this way and all this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, for a while. And she says that she's 10 weeks along or whatever. And I'm just like, oh, okay, you know, maybe she is pregnant. You know what I'm saying? Maybe she genuinely is pregnant. I don't know, you know. But, then it just kind of goes downhill from there. It spiraled into like a descent of just chaos and fuckery. It just, wow, it just went away. I mean, like, he starts to like have these memories again of like the wedding and all this shit, but then he remembers like hearing like two of her friends make a reference to someone named like Machi. And he was like, are they talking about her? You know what I'm saying? Are they talking about my wife? And then, you know, she was just like, yeah, she married a doctor, and even her, you know, her main guy, he's handsome too. And he's like, what the fuck? Like, she's having an affair on me already. She's cheating on me, and you know, and he thinks about that, and he just like, yeah, you saying you're pregnant and all this sort of shit, but is it even really true? And all this sort of stuff, you know what I'm saying? And he starts to put that suspicion towards her, and you know what I'm saying, you can just tell that the trust wasn't there anymore. Like, he just completely went away, was completely broken down or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And the climax of the episode was that she actually, like, he was kind of like rushing towards her. I don't know if he was going to stop her or if he was like just rushing out to say, hey, wait, or anything like that. But like, because he rushed towards her, it made her stumble, and like, she like lets the dart go, you know what I'm saying? It hits him in the heart. You know what I'm saying? He falls over or whatever. But then right then and there, she realizes that they had been dead the entire time. They're dead, and they're in between worlds. And because they died at the same time, they have to go to this world to decide where they're going to go, heaven or hell, because they died at the same time. You know what I'm saying? So that was different, you know what I'm saying? Like, again, it was on some Twilight Zone type shit. Like, they had already been dead, you know what I'm saying? And that's why it really didn't matter at the end of the day who won this game. Because the pain that they were going to feel will only be temporary because they don't have bodies. They're just spirits or whatever, you know. So it was weird, you know what I'm saying? And again, he brings up the whole Machi thing. And she's like, Machi? You know what I'm saying? And then she proceeds to tell him about how there's a friend of hers who she hadn't seen in a while, whose name was Mashida. And this person thought that her name was too masculine, so they called her Machi in school. And that's what they were talking about. This Machi also married a doctor. And this Machi couldn't, you know, give up the love she had for an old boyfriend or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So she just casting those seeds of, you know, doubt towards him that had already been casted, you know. And then he just, you know, he just kind of just like, no, you know, he didn't believe that shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't believe it, and that's kind of what makes him, you know, doubt this shit, you know what I'm saying? Because he remembers all the texts that she was getting, and that's how they actually died. She was getting the phone calls at night or whatever, and she never did respond to him, and he was just like, go ahead and pick it up when they were driving, and he reached for her phone while he was driving and fell off a cliff, so, and they died, you know. And I was just like, wow. But then in the end of the episode, again, it's kind of that mind fuck sort of thing, because I was just like, okay, is this the fucking Prestige? What just happened? In the end, he's telling her all his suspicions about her cheating on him and all that sort of shit, and that baby's not his and all that sort of stuff. She like looks surprised, like she genuinely looks shocked, and she walks away, and then she smiles, and then she just like, yeah, you got that right, you got one thing right, this ain't your baby, it is, it's someone else's, and I did marry you because I love you. What, you a fucking moron? You think I love you? Of course I married you for your money, of course I did. I married you for your money. I never did love you. And he goes to rush her with one of the darts that he, like some of the darts that he had pulled off the board. But Dequim stalks him with these string sort of things or whatever. And you know, he said the game is over. It's been decided because she won. Because she hit the heart, her score ended up being lower. So she won. You know what I'm saying? And then like they're sent back into the elevators or whatever. And that's like the end of their story. And then Dequim is approached by these two female characters. They haven't been named, I don't think. And if they did, I just didn't pay no attention. But just two female characters, and it turns out that Machiko was sent to a void, and Takashi was reincarnated. So that's the mind fuck right there for me. So I'm like, okay, wait. So was he deranged and tripping? Because they showed it from the perspective of him, Takashi, being the one who was like really deranged, and he was the one who was like really being affected by the things that were said. You know what I'm saying? Like, these seeds of doubt were placed in his mind, and he was running with this shit, almost as if these weren't true, but he was going to make them true in his head. But because he was reincarnated, I'm just like, okay, doesn't that mean he's getting a second chance at life? Like, he's getting a second chance at life. Whether he's being reincarnated into a human or anything else, he's getting a second chance at life. And she was sent to a fucking void. Into nothingness. So I'm like, well, does that mean that she really was cheating on him? And she really did get pregnant by some other dude? Because I'm assuming, like, that's her punishment. Like, she's sent into a void. So I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, right there and now, I was just like, what just happened? Like, was she cheating on him? I'm assuming she was. I can only assume that she was because she was sent into a fucking void. Unless she's going to be pulled into, like, next week's episode, which I fucking highly doubt. But, oh my god, though, man, this is really like some Inception prestige sort of shit. It really was just like, I was like, what? It's awesome, though. Like, it's awesome, though. It's so good to see a psychological mystery thriller, you know what I'm saying, anime. Because for the most part, most anime is just like harem and action and like shonen and shit. So it's good to see that shit, though, man. I was really impressed. And that outro was the shit, too. I was really, really impressed. Outro was in English. That shocked me. I was really impressed with this series and this episode, though, man. It's beautiful. I was really impressed. Wow, that was awesome. Let me know what you guys think about Death Parade, though, man. Are you hyped by it? Did you watch this episode? Are you going to continue to watch the series? Because this shit was beautiful, man. It was awesome. But let me know what you guys think about this shit, though, man. Vash St. Pete. Gone.